Discussing about this MIMO, right? Isn't it? So the model, just we recollect that. Y equal to h theta plus n, right? So this is the model what we had. So theta is the random variable associated with the transmitter, and we have the points here, that antenna in the receiver section. So this is theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 and so on. This is theta m here, and this is y1, y2, y3, it goes like that, and this is yn, right? So you have here n cross 1 in this, this is m cross, I'm sorry, I think we used the other way around, right? Here we used n and here we used m, isn't it? Okay. So we will use the same thing, m here. So this is m cross n in this, and this is m cross 1, and here we have this n cross 1, and this is m cross 1 in this. So we have the link like this. So these links, between the transmitter and the receiver is described by single variable, indicating that it is a flat. We are assuming that it is a flat and flat fading. So it is described by this H, and your H is a channel matrix which we are able to estimate it, right? Once this H is known, with that situation only we are interested in estimating theta based on the observation of what? Y. And we also assume this noise n, it is a additive noise, white noise, means its covariance matrix Cn is sigma n square I, right? I is identity matrix, isn't it? So that's what we assumed. It's a white noise, so the covariance matrix, we have only what? The diagonal elements, right? The off diagonal elements are 0. So that's what is about the Cn, right? And we assumed theta as the Gaussian distributed, multivariate Gaussian distributed with the typical mean vector and covariance matrix. With that assumption, we try to find out what? The conditional mean of the Poisson density function, that is theta given y. Once that mean is known, that itself is the estimate, right? With that MMSE, MMAE and MAP, all these three estimate coincides, and we get that as an estimate as a function of y, we got it, right? So now today what we are going to do is, we are going to discuss, right, if theta is not assumed as Gaussian, and we don't know the prior density function and then posterior density function, we have to go for what we call as this maximum likelihood estimation. So in case of maximum likelihood estimation, what we really need is the likelihood function, right, the density function of y given theta, that's what we need. So once theta is fixed here, h is already fixed, now you are fixing theta, it means that it is just like constant, right? M cross n times n cross 1, it is becoming m cross 1, some constant value we are getting after keeping what? Theta fixed, because that is what we are looking for. We are fixing it up, right? Theta, and we are finding out what is the density function of y. So it happens to be what? Y is equal to some constant, it is a vector, right? Plus this another vector n. So it is like, the structure is of this form. right? So we have this k1, k2 and so on up to this km, some constant, right, plus, and we have this noise vector n1, n2 and so on up to this nm. So this is what you are getting it as y. After fixing theta, that is very important, right? So it means that this matrix, what is that we have to do? The first row of this matrix H, now getting multiplied with what? This theta, right? Isn't it? So that is going to be that constant. So that constant I am writing it as here k1, k2 and so on, right, like this. So that is added with the noise, right, and this is going to be your y. So if you see this, this is ym here, and if I take this y1 is what? K1 plus n1, some constant plus n1, which we already know that if n1 is what? Gaussian distributed with mean 0 and variance sigma n square, then your y1 is also going to be what? Gaussian, with mean getting shifted to what? K1, some constant you are going to have, right? So now we are able to get what is the density function of y1 in one shot, and we know that this y1, y2, y3 and so on all are going to depend upon what? The random vector n. We know the random vector n is going to have what? The covariance matrix as sigma n squared I. It is white, hence it is a diagonal, right? Is a matrix, right? Hence, as you know, n is having that covariance matrix, right, which is diagonal matrix. What do you say about the covariance matrix of y? Mathematically we can easily identify that expectation of what? Y transpose minus mu y transpose, that is going to be your covariance matrix, right? So if I find that, what is that you get? This is what? Y transpose minus mu y transpose. What is this value, I am asking? But you know that y is what? Some constant plus n, right? So this is what your y vector is, some constant vector plus n vector. So if I substitute here like this, k plus n vector, remember that k is some constant here, k plus n vector, it purely depends upon, right, n, the random vector. K is something fixed because you are fixing it up what? N. And what is this mu y? Mu y is the mean of the vector y. It is expectation of y1 is what? Expectation of k1, which is already constant, so it is k1 plus expectation of n1. Expectation of n1 is 0, so it is giving you just k1, right? So if it is mu y, it is a complete k vector here, and you get this is what? K transpose, right? So from this, you know, you are having the term k transpose, that is constant, I can take it outside. K n transpose, n is, k is constant, so expectation of n is becoming 0, second term is becoming 0, and then n k transpose, that is also going to be 0, and finally you get n transpose, right? That is a diagonal matrix, isn't it? So that is going to be your diagonal matrix you are getting, right? So this k transpose, this k transpose also going to get cancelled, it becomes 0. So what is that you get? It is having the same covariance matrix as that of what? N, right? So having that variance sigma n square. In fact, we know that the variance of y1, y2, they are not going to change. They are going to have that same variance sigma n square, and they are what? Having that covariance matrix diagonal. So what we found is this vector, random vector y, it is multivariate Gaussian density function with the covariance matrix as a diagonal, with the diagonal elements are all sigma n square, which is same as that of what? Your noise, right? So with that I can write what is that likelihood function here, fy given theta right? So this one can write it as what? 2 pi sigma n square, right? Because now we found the covariance matrix is what? Diagonal. It means that they are uncorrelated, and as well as they are, I mean, for the special case when it is a Gaussian, it is also what? Independent. What I am going to do is I am simply going to multiply the Gaussian density function of the individual random variable y1, y2, y3, y4 and so on up to this what? Yn. Just a product, because they are independent, right? So if I take this density function of y1, it is what? 1 by root of 2 pi sigma square into what? E power minus y1 minus that constant is your k1 the whole square by 2 sigma n square, right? So you have that denominator square root of what? 2 pi sigma n square. Like that I have to write how many times? I need to write m times. So I'm sorry, this is not n, this is m here. So m times I have to write, right? 1 by square root of 2 pi sigma square into what? 1 by root of 2 pi sigma square and so on. And then I need to do what? The product I equal to 1 to m e power minus yi minus the mean is ki, we will write it as ki whole square by 2 sigma n square. Yes, this is going to be your likelihood function. Now once you get this likelihood function, remember that where is that theta coming? I said theta is fixed, right? Theta is coming, it is hidden in what? K, right? K is basically, what is K? K is h theta, right? Finally I am going to replace that one with h theta, right? So now let me, in fact K1, K2, K3 is what? You have to write what? The first row of this H matrix multiplied with all theta, that is giving you what? K1. So it is like that, isn't it? Suppose that if I am writing this matrix H purposefully like this, H1 transpose, H2 transpose and so on, how many rows are there in this matrix H? It is m rows. So HM transpose, if I am writing in this way, right? So what is my K1? K1 is H1 transpose theta, as simple as that. So I can write this Ki as Hi transpose theta. So this is just to make sure that I am fixing it of theta and you got the likelihood function. Now you know what is my Hi, right? Each row of the matrix H, they are your Hi's, right? So now I wanted to what? Maximize this likelihood function if I want to estimate theta given y, right? So maximizing this likelihood function is same as that of maximizing what? Taking what? The logarithm. So I take this logarithm of this. This is not needed. In fact, this is going to be that constant part here. It is not playing the role for optimization. And the second term is important. It is the product. So if I take this log, it is going to be the summation, right? And what is there in that power, that will come here with minus sign. Already I have taken outside, so it is yi minus hi transpose theta by 2 sigma n square, right? Ln e is there, that is 1, so I am not writing that. So this is what you actually wanted to maximize. In fact, this can be, we can change the problem as the minimization problem as what? Yi minus hi transpose theta, right? Okay, I made here this square, right? Right? Yi minus x minus mu the whole square, right? That 2 I missed, by 2 sigma square. It is fine now. Okay, by 2 sigma square. I have taken this part alone separately and I wanted to call this problem as the minimization problem, and here it is a maximization problem. and here it is a maximization problem, and that is converted to what? Minimization problem in this. Now the problem is given. This is what the problem is. You need to solve this, right? So for finding out the solution, right? So you would like to solve this, right? So what is that you wanted to get? You wanted to get what? You want to estimate what? Estimate theta given y. You need to find out what is that solution for theta. So I differentiate this one with respect to theta and equal to 0, and I would like to find out what is the solution for theta. So if I differentiate this one with respect to theta, theta is a vector here, right? Even hi is going to be a vector, row wise it is a vector here, right? I want to differentiate with respect to what? Theta. So means every variable I need to differentiate, and I put it in a vector form, isn't it? And I want to combine all the expression to get a single matrix representation to get that final result. So if I differentiate this one with respect to theta, right? So what is that you get? 2 times yi minus hi transpose theta, and then what I do? I have to find out that coefficient of theta, right? So that is going to be your, in fact we have sigma also involved in that, the summation is there in that, right? So combined together, right, we can find out the result as the value of theta that satisfies y equal to hx, right, in matrix form. You can try now. The best choice, right, for theta, right, that minimizes this one is obtained as solving theta given y using the expression y equal to h theta. I combined all the things, right? You need to differentiate this one with respect to theta equal to 0, right, and you have a sigma, and combined all the terms in a matrix form, you get this result as what? Y equal to h theta. This is the solution. Y equal to h theta is fine, but what is the problem in this? Y is m cross 1 and this h is m cross n, and this theta is n cross 1, right? You see that it is not the direct method what we can apply for solving that value of theta here in this equation. Y equal to h theta. It is not very straightforward because I cannot take what? The inverse for h, because h is not at all, first of all, what? It is not a square matrix. H is not a square matrix. I cannot take just what? H inverse y to get this theta, right? So how to solve this, right? So first of all, you understand that this is what we call it as maximum likelihood estimation, right? And your maximum likelihood estimation, right, is giving you the minimization of what? Y minus h theta whole square, right, is what we call it as least square. So least square solution, I am just giving some additional information. The least square solution and the maximum likelihood solution are going to be the same, provided what the noise what we assumed is what? Gaussian, right? See, least square solution means, right, even without doing all this stuff whatever we have done, right, we know the basic relationship between what? Y and theta. We have it here. Y equal to what? H theta. Noise is there, but this is what that expression. Y equal to h theta, right? I try to find out this theta that minimizes what? Y minus h theta, the whole square, least square. I mean, I am talking about this magnitude square. It is a vector, so magnitude square, right? The magnitude square of what? Y minus h theta, right? If I do this, I'll write it here, y minus h theta. Even without doing all the stuff, whatever we did, I can directly think of the problem as y minus h theta, the magnitude square. You understood what I'm telling? So this is what we call it as least square technique. Least square technique. Even that noise is not Gaussian, we used to have, this is another solution apart from all the solution whatever we had, right? One is MMSE, MMAE, MAP is fine, and finally we had maximum likelihood, fine, and then one more is least square. Least square technique. This is called least square technique. Means we know y related with this y, right? Y equal to what? H theta. Of course, noise is there. We are not knowing what is the type of noise and all, right? We know that the relationship is y equal to h theta. We try to minimize the error. Y minus h theta, the magnitude square it is, right? So we try to minimize that, and that solution is exactly what I have written there, right? Y equal to h theta. Getting that value of theta, that is satisfying y equal to h theta, as simple as it. In this, I just wanted to stress another point, that the least square solution, right, what we get y equal to h theta is same as that of maximum likelihood estimation, right? That's what we got, provided the noise what we assumed is what? Gaussian. Suppose if the noise is not Gaussian, least square solution is different, maximum likelihood solution is different. You have to understand carefully that we got this expression because the noise is Gaussian, and hence we got this likelihood function of the Gaussian form, and we took that power and we tried to what? Minimize that, and hence we got that final result as what? Y equal to h theta. You have to remember that all these things are coming because we assumed the noise is Gaussian. Even without knowing the type of the noise what is getting added, we can straight away write the least square technique is as simple as that. What is that? Y minus h theta, the magnitude square you would like to minimize, right? So the one coincidence is that what? The maximum likelihood solution is same as that of what? The least square solution, or the other way around, right? Least square solution is same as that of what? Maximum likelihood solution, provided what? The noise what we consider is what? Gaussian. So that is the point noted. Now coming back to this original track, we need to solve this. Y equal to h theta, but h is m cross n. It is not first of all square matrix. There is no point in talking about that inverse, right? So this how to solve. So let me now consider that h1. See, I am using the same notation h1, but you should not get confused, right? That h1 is different. That is over, right? Now I am using this one for the column wise. I'm sorry. H, how many columns are there in this? M cross n, m rows and n columns, right? So you have this n. So don't get confused. This h is totally different from that. I want to erase that. Otherwise you will get confused. This is different, right? And now I am taking this columns of the matrix H as what? The vectors H1, H2, H3 and so on up to this H n. So this is multiplied with what? You have here theta 1, theta 2 and so on, and I have theta n in this, and that is equal to, you have this y, y1, y2 and so on up to this ym. This is of size m cross n, and this is of size n cross 1, and this is m cross 1. Now I just wanted to introduce what is called the column space of the matrix. We are going to formally discuss this one the linear algebra portion, but now I just want to talk few points related to that and then come back to this original track. I have a matrix here. I can view this problem as what? I can consider this is a H, right? So I can view this of the columns of this matrix H like this. Now I can rewrite this expression as H1 theta 1, H2 theta 2 and so on up to what? Hn theta n, and that is going to be your Y matrix. See that in this theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 and so on up to this theta n, they are all the scalars. What I am doing here is I am actually finding out the linear combinations of the columns of the matrix H. Yes, you can imagine the space, vector space. This is the space which has the vectors obtained as the linear combinations of what? The columns of the matrix H. You can think of the vector space like that. So I have the vector space here. So these are all the vectors. This is 0 origin here, and I have this vector H1, H2, H3 and so on up to this Hn. These are all the vectors. It's a vector space. I am saying that it is a vector space means this space has the vectors obtained as what? The linear combinations of these vectors. Any linear combination. You put some scalar multiples of these vectors, that will be there in that space. That is what we call it as vector space. You have huge vectors in that, right? So now this theta is basically what? One such combinations, right? So what do you think about this Y? Y is a vector, right, which lies in this space, provided now if this Y lies in the space, I can find out some values for what? Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 and so on, so that this Y lies in that space. In other words, what I want to tell you is this theta, this Y, if it lies in where? The column space of the matrix H, then you get thetas, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, means you get a solution for it. I am talking about the case, right, even when you don't have the solution. Linear equation, if I am having linear equation, doesn't mean that you always have what? Solution to it. You understand what I am telling? So you can have a set of equations that may end up with what? No solution. Yes, that is the case when this Y, the vector Y, if it doesn't lie in the column space of the matrix H, then you will not get a solution. You got this point? So that is the case, the worst case scenario that I am going to consider. So this is the vector Y. So I put it in a different angle here. Right? Some vector Y here which is not in the column space of H. Even then I need a solution, because you need to find out theta such that what? Y minus H theta, the norm square, that error, right? The magnitude of that error, magnitude square of this error, right? Error vector, that needs to be what? Minimized. I need a solution for it. The best value of theta, if it lies in the column space of H, there is no problem. You get a unique solution, and that will make what? Y minus H theta going to be 0. No problem. But in reality, it is not going to be there. It is not going to be the case. Your Y vector is not going to be there in that what? Column space of the matrix H. In that case, what we have to do? Right? So in this case, what you do is you project you project this vector to the column space of H, you project the vector to the column space of H as y cap, right, such that the difference between the actual vector y and then projected vector, this y cap, is what we call this error vector. Y minus y cap is going to be your error vector, right? This is your error vector here, and this error vector is supposed to be minimum. Your error vector is getting minimized, right? So for example, the plane is one vector space with what, 2D, let us say, and I have the vector which is not lying on this plane, it is somewhere outside this floor. Then what I do, I project, see, some vector is lying like this, right? So what I do, I project this vector to this plane and find out the vector on the plane. You understood what I am telling? So you have a vector and I am projecting there. So the best vector that minimizes this error between the actual vector and the projected vector is going to be what? This error vector, right, basically is going to be orthogonal to the column space. If this E vector is orthogonal, perpendicular, if this projection is perpendicular, then only this E is going to get minimized, right? So that is the key for me now. I choose theta such that this E is getting minimized, as simple as this, right? But what is my E? E is y minus y cap. This is the error. Error vector is y minus y cap, and this y minus y cap is perpendicular. It is orthogonal to all the vectors whatever present in that space, all the vectors, right? So it's a perpendicular projection what we are having. And what do you say about this y cap? We have some facts here, right? So what is that y cap? First of all, y cap lies in that space. So I can write this y cap as a linear combination of these column vectors, right? So I can write this y cap as h into p, some vector, we don't know what it is. That linear combination coefficients are described by what? P. But this is what really we need. Once we know this y cap, you are through, because y cap lies in the column space of H, then definitely the solution occur, as simple as that, right? So now what we know that this error vector is perpendicular to all that H. For example, let me write it as y minus HP, right? This is perpendicular to what? H1, right? And then what? Y minus HP is perpendicular to H2, and so on. Y minus HP is perpendicular to Hn, all the vectors whatever I am considering, right? So I want to combine this expression, all these expression, we have n equations here, I want to combine in a matrix form. So what is the size? We will see. This is 1 cross m now, because this is m cross 1, now we have taken the transpose, this is 1 cross m, and this is H1, it is m cross 1 in this, and this all becomes a scalar in this, right? So if I want to combine, right, y minus HP, this is 1 cross m here, and H1, right, it is m cross 1, I will write it as H2, m cross 2, it goes up to this Hn here, and this is m cross n in this, right? So I am just combining all the expression, but whatever we get here is no more a scalar, it is a vector here, because it is 1 cross m, and this is what? M cross n, so this is becoming what? 1 cross m, 1 cross n, so it is a row vector basically. So I am using 0 transpose, because all the vectors are normally represented in the form of a column, right? So I take a transpose here, this is This is my H here, so I will take the transpose H transpose y minus HP, and that is going to be your 0 vector, right. So I will write it here. H transpose y minus H transpose H P, that is equal to 0. This implies H transpose H P equal to H transpose y. This implies the P vector is H transpose H the whole inverse H transpose y. It's very important what I am doing here. I am trying to find out what is that P, right. So P is given as H transpose H the whole inverse H transpose y, right. So what is my y cap? The final y cap I write it here. Y cap is what? H into the P vector. P vector is what? H transpose H the whole inverse H transpose y, right. It means what? I am able to project the vector y to the column space of the matrix H using this expression, and hence this is what we call it as projection matrix. This is called projection matrix, H into H transpose H the whole inverse H transpose, and that is going to be what we call it as projection matrix. Why? It projects the vector y to the column space of the matrix H. Once this projection is done, you get a solution. There is no doubt in it. The solution exists because it lies in what? The column space of H. But whether it is going to be that unique solution or not is a different issue, right. You may get, it may not be unique solution also, that we will discuss. Formally we are going to discuss these things in linear algebra, right. But we get a solution, that is 100% true, right, because this vector y cap lies in the column space of H, then we get a solution. That is a solution what we are supposed to get, right. Now can you tell me what is that theta cap? Theta cap, I am not saying theta, it is theta cap, that is what I am calling it as an estimate. Theta cap I am saying, not theta. Reason is, it can be theta also sometimes. Suppose that if it is very rare, and just for the argument's sake we can say that this vector y, if it lies in the column space already, there is no problem. You get a solution, and theta is same as that of your theta cap, right. I mean theta cap and the theta all are going to be the same, but in reality this y vector is not going to be there in the column space of H, and hence you will not get theta, actually you get what is called theta cap. What is that theta cap? Theta cap is, we get a modified expression for this actually. So you need to solve this. H theta cap is y cap, right. So theta cap is that solution replacing y with what? Y cap, and get a solution for theta. That is what you call it as theta cap, right. So now can you compare this expression with this and tell me what is that theta cap? Is very simple, right. What is that? It is, so you have that expression here, y cap. So H is there, and this is going to be your theta cap, am I right? H transpose H the whole inverse H transpose y, and that is going to be your theta cap, as simple as that, right. You can even write this theta cap as right? So this theta cap, see normally if I have something like Ax equal to B, you write it as what? X as what? A inverse B, right? Provided if A is a square matrix and if A is what? Invertible, right? You will write like that. Suppose that if A is not invertible and moreover if it is not a square matrix, what we do is we take the inverse still, what that inverse is called pseudo inverse, right? That is called pseudo inverse with a symbol what I have mentioned there, right? Like a cross, right? It is a pseudo inverse basically. So in your MATLAB the command is pinv.m, right? Right. So what it is actually doing, right? So that is what is actually is happening. That pseudo inverse is basically h plus, I mean that symbol is of the cross form, right? Plus form y, right? So that is a theta cap, right? Instead of using that, right? So you can compare and you can check what is that going to be your that pseudo inverse mean, right? So what I am trying to say here is, if this y doesn't lie in that column space of matrix H, then you project the vector y to the column space of H. That's the main thing. You project it using what? The projection matrix. The projection matrix is what? H into H transpose H, the whole inverse H transpose. That is going to be your projection matrix, right? So if you closely watch this projection matrix, it is like of, what is that form? AB inverse is what? B inverse A inverse, right? If you expand that inverse part, H transpose H the whole inverse, what will happen? H inverse H transpose the whole inverse, H into H inverse will come, and H transpose the whole inverse H transpose will come. It means that it looks like what? Identity, right? Right? But it is not true, because H is not a square matrix. We cannot take H inverse, right? First of all, H is not a square matrix, we cannot expand it, right? So you can't say that H transpose H the whole inverse as what? H inverse and into H transpose A inverse, that you can't write. You have to make sure that it is a, first of all it is a square matrix, second even if it is a square matrix you have to see whether it is what? Invertible or not. Two things are there, right? But this is the expression. Suppose that if H is square, right? And if I am saying that H is invertible, in that case this projection matrix is going to be what? Simply I. It is just the identity matrix. It means what? Already this y lies in where? In the column space of H. What is the guarantee? Y is your data, right? The moment you write this H, as what? Square, invertible, the claim is whatever number you write in the right hand side, whatever vector you write, that vector always lie in that column space of the matrix H. Whatever the vector you write. Yes, it is true, because once it is a square matrix and invertible, I can write this theta as what? H inverse y, isn't it? So there exists theta satisfying what? The linear combinations of these vectors to be equal to that vector y, right? Understood what I am telling? So in that case what will happen? Whatever the vector you write in the right hand side, that should always lie, the space spanned by the columns of this matrix H. You got this point? Not clear? You see, what I am trying to say here is, for example, H is m cross n, right? So it is a square matrix now. I call it as m cross m in this, right? And I am having only m column vectors, right? This is a special case when H is m cross m. Yeah, that is also possible. Why not? Special case, right? And I am saying this H is invertible, right? So it means what? My theta is, this is going to be m cross m now. Theta vector is what? H inverse y, isn't it? Right? So So there exists theta satisfying this expression. H theta is y here, and this is m cross m, this is m cross 1, and this is m cross 1 here, and this theta is H inverse y. I told that H is invertible, so theta exists. You get some number satisfying exactly this expression, right? So it is the other way around. What did it mean really? It means that I am able to find out this theta such that if I do this linear combination, right, with what? H1 theta, H2 theta 2, H3 theta 3 and so on, you get what? Y. It means what? Y always lies in that column space of this matrix H. So the moment H it is square and invertible, there is no problem. But remember, in reality, particularly in telecommunication like this MIMO problem and all, right? So your Y is not going to lie in the column space of H. In that case, I have to go for what we call this projection theorem, right? You project the vector Y to the column space of H and then you have to solve it. This is the estimation problem. This is a classical estimation problem. It's a least square estimation, right? And your least square estimation coincides with where? Your maximum likelihood estimation if the noise is Gaussian. But you have the other classical estimation problem. What is that? MMSE, MMAE and MAP. We already got an expression for that, and you can see to that and just think about when that will become ML. You have the similar expression with the inverse also. You can see to that, isn't it? I am not going to tell, I am just asking you to think about that expression. What is the interrelationship, right? We discussed MMSE, MMAE, MAP, ML, least square. These are all what we call it as the classical estimation problems, right? So okay. So now we go for the next topic. Before we start random process, I mean from the next class we will have that random process. We will have the final, right, the topic which is actually left out in that probability portion, right. So yesterday we discussed about this multivariate Gaussian density function, right. I just give you some special case when we have only two random vector x1 and x2, and we know that it is described by the covariance matrix and the mean vector here. So this is that covariance matrix, right? And what is that? Multivariate Gaussian density function expression. It is 1 by 2 pi power n by 2. And we have this covariance matrix of e power minus of right. So now what I am doing is I wanted to substitute this expression here, and n is 2 in this, so it is 2 pi only. And determinant of Cx is needed, so I write determinant of Cx itself, but you know what it means, right? You need to find out what? The determinant of that, is sigma x1 squared is sigma x2 squared minus rho squared sigma x1 squared sigma x2 squared, right? Right, so that we have to write. So e power minus of, and we need to find out this inverse for it, right? That needs to be substituted here, right? And then x minus mu x is going to be, x is what? You have as a vector like this x1 x2, and we need to take the transpose. So it is like x1 minus mu x1 x2, this is the transpose here, and we need to write the inverse in this, and this is x1 minus mu x1 x2 minus mu x2. So this is constant here, this is constant, right? I mean constant in the sense it is not going to be, depends on the value of x1 and x2, right? It is just a constant, and x1 and x2 is coming here only, right? And we have the matrix in this, right? So what do you say about this expression equation? You can even find out the specific inverse. So what is the inverse? First of all, 1 by determinant what, adjoint of your Cx, right? So what is it you get? For this point, what is it you get? Sigma x2 square, and this is sigma x1 square, and here it is minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2, and this is minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2, and you have a determinant in this, then I just take it as a constant here, right? K, I put it like this. I just wanted to know what is this expression looks like. No, I am just asking you, see, this is x1 minus mu x1, right, into what? Sigma x2 square. Can you quickly write what is there in the exponential form alone? Right, other things we are not interested. I just wanted to do this. Mu x1 is multiplied with what? Sigma x2 square, right? And then minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2 what? X2 minus mu x2, right? This is one term, and this gets multiplied with this one here, and x1 minus mu x1 here, and the second term it is minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2 x2 minus mu x2, no, this is x1 minus mu x1, the second column. I'm doing this with this, right? Plus, I mean, yes, plus sigma x1 square x2 minus mu x2, and this gets multiplied, you know, here the whole thing is multiplied with what? X1 minus mu x1, and here it is multiplied with x2 minus mu x2. So this is mu x2 here, and this becomes square here. I have taken only that power, e power, that part alone, and I am looking for what is this expression. This is an expression of what? Okay, for simplicity, let us, if you take this, the mean as 0 at least, right? So for that mean as 0, can you see what is that expression look like? This is x1 square sigma x2 square minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2 x1 x2 minus rho sigma x1 sigma x2 x1 x2. In fact, I can put it as 2 times there, sigma x1 square x2 square. If I divide this one, this is the expression, this is some constant, right? I mean, this is what the value for the typical value of x1 and x2 will give you some value in that. What is this expression called? So if I have this some constant C1, by substituting a typical value of x1 and x2, I get this expression, right? So this is what we call as a contour. The center of all values of x1 and x2 satisfying this expression is what we call it as the contours of x1 x2, right? So again, if I divide everything, with sigma x1 squared, sigma x2 square, and still the right hand side it is going to be constant, some constant here, and this is going to be 1 in this, right? And here you get sigma x1 square no, this is going to be what, by sigma x2 square here, and here it is going to be sigma x1 square, sigma x2 square, one part will cancel here, and this is sigma x1 square, sigma x2 square. So you get like x1 square by sigma x1 square plus the last one x2 squared by sigma x2 square minus 2 rho, right, x1 x2 by what, sigma x1 sigma x2, that is going to be some constant, right? What is this equation? I am just asking you to look for the expression and think about what is that equation. This is of what? Ellipse. That's what I wanted to tell, right? So x squared by sigma x1 squared plus x2 squared by what? Sigma x2 squared is equal to constant. Of course we have this rho. If rho is 0, it becomes what? Circle, right? When when rho is 0 and sigma x1 squared is equal to what? Sigma x2 squared, it becomes what? Circle, right? If rho is 0 and sigma x1 squared is not equal to sigma x2 squared, still it is what? Ellipse, right? Irrespective of whatever the values of rho you give, this contour is going to be what? Ellipse. For 2D we are able to assume that, right? You have this bell shape, right? So if we choose a proper height from, right, that 0, right, if you find out, if you trace out the height, right, that contour is going to be what? Ellipse. Everywhere it is going to be ellipse. That's what I am telling, right? So the contour is the ellipse for multivariate Gaussian density function, not only for 2D, higher dimension if you go, still we get ellipsoid, right, like that. And that's what I thought of telling, that this is important observation, right? So the contour of the density function is of the ellipse irrespective of whatever the rho you choose, or it gets tilted, depends upon the value of rho, it gets tilted with a different angle, 45 degree or some arbitrary theta, plus or minus, it gets tilted. And sigma x1 squared equal to sigma x2 squared and rho equal to 0, special case you get what? Circle also. So this is just the one point which I left out, I thought of telling that. So this is one thing. And the final topic is in probability, that first part of this course, probability, is the sequence of random variable. So just like sequence of numbers, we know that what is that sequence of number. We'll have some intro and then come back to this. So this is basically the sequence of number, right? So I have 1 plus 1 by 1, 1 plus 1 by 2, 1 plus 1 by 3 and so on, it goes on. And I am saying that this sequence is getting converged to some number. We know that when limit n tends to infinity, right, this number converges to what? 1. In more general, we can even think of what? Limit n tends to infinity, xn is getting converged to some number n, I mean x, right? What does really it mean? It means that it is a sequence basically. It is a sequence. There exists some, right, time or sample value in the sequence n, and there exists the positive epsilon, right, such that the difference is x, right, is going to be what? Less than epsilon for n, right, greater than this capital N. Means what? You have ups and downs also, there is no problem, right? After some value it has to go like this, right? The sequence numbers are there after some point n, after that the values are, right, the difference in that converged value x, and this is xn, that is difference, absolute difference, right, that is going to be what? Within that bound, right, epsilon, xn minus x, and that axis value is going to be x in this case. We can suppose if I choose this x is 0, this is what it means, this is 0 line, right, x is 0 for example, xn converges to 0 for example in the first case, right. So plus or minus epsilon after the nth sample, all the values, right, should be within that limit plus or minus epsilon. If that is the case, that we can say that it has converged. This is already known to you, I am just recollecting that, right. But just like that we can even imagine the sequence of random variable also. How the sequence of random variable looks like? For example, let us consider the random variable x1, x2 and so on up to this xn with expectation of xi is constant everywhere, some constant, right. You can think of yn is sigma I equal to 1 to n xi, and I can divide this 1 by n, and now I can think of the sequence y1, y2, y3 and so on. You understood what I am doing? I am actually defining the random variable xi's. They are all the random variables with the expectation of that random variable is going to be constant, right, that's it. And the variance to be less than infinity, that is also there, variance less than infinity. Okay, this is additional information for you, mean and then variance I am just giving. Then I am constructing the random variable. What is the constructed random variable? It is yn. Yn is 1 by n sigma equal to 1 to n xi. It means that what is the first random variable? It is x1. The second y2 is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. Then what? x1 plus x2 plus x3 divided by 3 and so on, it goes like that. Now what does it converge to? Here we are saying that it has converged to the number. The sequence of number is getting converged to what? Number. Just like that, the sequence of random variable is also getting converged to the random variable. It converges to what? The random variable x. When, if I am saying this n tends to infinity, this yn is getting converged to the random variable y, right? what does it mean? Convergence in what sense you are telling, right? So that is what we have the list. We have something called So I have some list like this: point-wise convergence, convergence in distribution sense, convergence in probability sense, convergence in mean square sense, and convergence in almost sure sense, right? So what does it mean? So let me first discuss about this fourth point, convergence in mean square sense. It means that you create, yn minus y whole square. You create a number. It is a number now. You can agree that it is a number, right? Expectation of yn minus y the whole square is a number because it's an expectation value, right? So now I converted that sequence of the random variable into the sequence of number. What I am telling here is, so by putting different values, y1 here and y2 here, I am able to create the sequence of, now whatever I holds true for that convergence in the number, that I am going to make use of it here, means the limit n tends to infinity, expectation of yn minus y the whole square, if it is becoming 0, right, then I can say that the random variable yn has converged to y. That's the meaning of it. So you are saying that it is what? Convergence in mean square sense, right? So the other things are, start with your point-wise convergence. It is a strong statement. Point-wise convergence is a strong statement to say that these two random variables are exactly the same, identical. Means for all the outcomes, whatever the value this y is taking, the same thing it should, the converged one needs to take. It is very difficult to prove, but that is what we call it as point-wise convergence. It is strong. The other things, whatever we have, it is a weak statement. Even mean square sense is actually the weaker statement actually, right? It is only in the mean square sense it has converged, right? We are not able to tell in terms of all the outcomes. If you are able to tell for every outcomes of the experiment, because after all this, after n tends to infinity, it is also the random variable and this is also the random variable. If both are exactly identical, if it takes the same value, is what we call as point-wise convergence. It's very difficult to prove. In fact, we are not mostly using that, right? So we have this convergence in distribution. In distribution level, it is true. Distribution level means what? The probability of, right? So if I call this one is yn. If I convert that one as the distribution of alpha here, that is probability of yn less than or equal to alpha, and we have this probability of y less than or equal to alpha here. So this is fy of alpha, and you have this distribution. Distribution value is going to be what? Again a number. distribution is a number, Fn, right? F Yn of alpha is probability of Yn less than or equal to alpha. So I can now convert this one into number, right? And that is getting converged to what? The distribution of Y, probability of Y less than or equal to alpha is what we call it as convergence in distribution sense. And we have convergence in probability. It is probability of, let us say this, Yn minus Y, right, greater than epsilon, right, and this is going to be what? The sequence, right? Probability of Y1 minus Y greater than epsilon. Epsilon is some positive value, very small value what you are considering. This probability of Yn minus Y greater than epsilon, probability of Y2 minus Y greater than epsilon. So it becomes what? The sequence. And if that probability is becoming 0 when n tends to infinity, we say that the random variable Y n has converged to the random variable Y. Got it? So this is convergence in probability sense. For example, we will have some close look in this because we already know some inequality. So what is this? This is less than or equal to what? We already did this. What is that? Expression of Yn minus Y the whole square by epsilon squared. Am I right? Right, we did this. Suppose that if the sequence of random variable is getting converged in mean square sense, I have already written that expected Yn minus Y the whole square when n tends to infinity, that is becoming what? 0. So if I apply the limit on both sides, n tends to infinity here and here also n equal to infinity, this is becoming 0, means I am saying that it is converging in mean square sense. If it is converging in mean square sense, right, that is 0. So and we have this probability to be what? Less than or equal to 0, and probability cannot be negative. So it should be what? Equal to 0. It means that it is converging in probability sense also. So the statement is coming like this: if the sequence of random variable is converging in mean square sense, right? So what does it mean? So we have that statement, this probability sense also, it is getting what? Convergence. Isn't it? So some, and one more thing is that last one, the almost sure convergence. It is actually followed by this one actually. The pointwise convergence means I look for all the outcomes to satisfy, all the outcomes of the experiment of the random variable Yn and Y, I have to look for that. Instead, if I take, some field subset of the outcome, but the outcome whatever you have taken, right, if I add the probabilities, if that happens to be 1, is what we call as field, right? What I am telling here is, you have the outcome of the experiment, but you take the part of it, we call it as field of the outcome, such that whatever the outcome you get it from the field means the total probability associated with that outcome, if it happens to be what? 1. You are choosing like that. The individual subset you are taking, and if I add up those probabilities, I am getting it as what? 1. Right? So if it is satisfying for that, I mean that Yn and Y, they are having that same value. Pointwise convergence means all the outcomes I have to consider. Almost sure means we have to consider only the field, right? A subset of that subset, but whatever the subset you get, that subset outcomes, right, whatever you are considering, that probability if we add, that should end up with what? 1. Like that you have to consider, and if it is satisfying for that, we call that as what? Almost sure convergence. Right? So I am giving actually in that order of the strong, whether it is going to be strong or weak. That way I have written. If I am saying it is a point-wise convergence, there is no need to test the other things. If it is point-wise convergence, it is going to be converged in distribution, probability, mean square sense, all those things are going to be true. We go for the next only because the first one I am not able to prove. I am not able to prove that it is point-wise convergence, then I have to go for some weak statement. Yes, it is convergence in distribution, yes. I am able to prove it or not. Then we go for convergence in probability. And these two are actually overlapping. Right? Means, if I say convergence in mean square sense, doesn't mean that it may converge in what? Almost sure. If it is converging in almost sure, we can't say anything about what? Convergence in mean square. But this one is in that proper order. Means I can put a box like this, rectangular box. This is 1 here, this is 2 here, and this is 3 here, and 4 and 5 is like this. Right? This is 1 almost, and this is 4 and 5. 1 means point-wise convergence, 2 means convergence in distribution, 3 means convergence in probability, 4 means convergence in mean square sense, and 5th one is convergence in almost sure. That there we have this overlapping. Right? Part of it, may coincide, and sometimes they need not be also. Right? So this is basically about this convergence. Why this is important? One of the important result, is your central limit theorem. That's the reason why this is important, and other things also we can think of, right? But the central limit theorem says, right, the sequence of number, just like what I had it there, except I wanted to change here itself, xi minus m, and I take here that square root. I'll just take that, and this constant is m here. I have written here itself, right? So the same expression, only thing is xi minus m 1 by square root of n. If I construct a random variable like this, right, if I have, it starts like this, I have a random variable x1, x2, x3 and so on up to what? It goes like that. All are identical, having the mean m and variance less than infinity. Then I can construct the sequence. The sequence is x1 plus x2, x1 first, second one is x1 plus x2 divided by square root of 2. I mean, in fact, with minus m, right? x1 minus m, that is 1. The second one is what? Right? x1 minus m plus x2 minus m divided by square root of 2. Then we have 3 terms. Square root of 3. It goes like that. This converges, this sequence of random variable converges to the random variable that is Gaussian distributed. This one, which sense they have proved? They proved this statement actually in convergence in distribution sense. The central limit theorem was proved actually in distribution sense, right? So this sequence of random variable is converging in to what? The Gaussian distributed, right? So with this actually we are finishing off this probability portion, right? And we are